welcome everyone to this episode of Just Talking About Jesus. I have Parker Whitsett with me today. Welcome, Parker.
Hi, Jan. Good morning.
So glad to have you and hear your story. Tell me a little bit about what your growing up faith was like. What's your testimony?
Well, I grew up in a Christian household, uh, and I think my whole life I believed that God existed, that uh, Jesus died for my sins, and everything you're expected to believe. Uh, but then there was a point where, in my teens, I kind of started justifying certain actions, small actions, and uh, that kind of very quickly led down a, a kind of a dark path, I guess. And I found myself drinking quite a bit, and that started to get me into trouble at a pretty young age. And you know, at one point, I stopped drinking because I had to, and then I started again. And when I started again, I started hanging out with a much different crowd than I was before, and was introduced to all sorts of drugs and other stuff like that. And uh, my life very quickly spiraled after that. I wasn't getting along with my parents and moved out pretty much as soon as I could. And yeah, I had a very close friend pass away while drinking, and you would have thought that that would be a maybe a wake up call, but instead I sort of, I guess, buried my emotions with just more substances. And I just went pretty deep down that road. Basically, anytime something bad would happen that would maybe say I should slow down, I would double down and push a little bit harder until finally I found myself at what I then thought was rock bottom. I had done, uh, I guess a way to put it is, harder drugs than what I was previously doing, and I realized where I was getting myself into and thought that that was it for me. So I called up my mom and told her I wanted to get sober and, uh, you know, change my life around. And for a time I did. And then things started to actually go really well for me. Everything was falling into place very quickly. And unfortunately, I think at that point I kind of let a little bit of pride in. I started to maybe think that I was in control of things and had a handle on things. And I had some Christian friends that drank, but they drank responsibly, like, nothing that most people would consider a problem, just, a beer here, a beer there. And so I figured, if they're doing it, why shouldn't I? I'm doing well enough with everything else. So I kind of slipped back into drinking. And, while they would have one beer here or there, I would kind of sneak off and have a few more. And next thing I know, I was back to buying drugs, and it just, you know, went downhill even quicker this time than the last. And I didn't really see it happening. And but I guess I must have known that it was, because I was hiding it from the people that would have called me out on it. So um yeah, I found myself going to, parties and stuff with other other friends that weren't the responsible people, and presently that I would put myself in such a haze that, I even before I'd, lost a lot of friends and just done really stupid things while drinking. And finally, I blacked out and ended up getting myself into a substantial amount of trouble and ended up doing quite a bit of time in prison. Basically, I'm 28 now, and a majority of my adult life has been spent behind bars.
Mm,
And, I'd love to say, oh, it's just because of the drugs and alcohol. And the things that happened maybe wouldn't have happened if I wasn't intoxicated. They definitely wouldn't have, but I knew well before that that was not a good lifestyle for me. So, there's unfortunately nowhere to put the blame other than myself.
mm,
And while I was in county jail, waiting to see, what would happen with my life, whether I would go to prison or not, I really, really kind of broke down and realized that I needed Jesus in my life. I looked back at the short amount of time that I was following him and saw how great things were, saw how I was around better people, people that loved me, cared about me. And, a lot of those people actually came and visited me while I was in jail, which was just kind of like reminded me like, hey, these are good people. And, this is the type of people that you're around when Jesus is in your life, when Jesus is at the center, and that's when I realized I needed to get my life on track. So I started reading the Bible a lot. Uh, I was in jail for 7 months, and I read the entire Bible all the way through, I think 1.5 times while I was there. And you had enough time to do so, and so
When
might
you
as
were
well.
when you were reading through the Bible, what kind of things really stuck out to you?
Uh, it really, I mean, it really depended, but a lot of the stuff just about God's forgiveness and stuff is really any passage that had to do with that is where I found the most comfort, I guess, because it just reminded me that like even though, you know, I am the lowest of lows, God loves me just as much as he loves,
Hmm.
you know, the guy behind the pulpit or, the missionary in Africa. And so
Did you feel like you got, by I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Was it better to read directly from the Bible and get that message as opposed to somebody telling you that?
I would say yes. I mean, a good teaching is always nice,
Hmm.
and it might allow you to look at things a different way. And I've had plenty of, heard quite a few different teachers over my lifetime, and usually every single one has at least something to say worth hearing. But when you read for yourself, it's like the Holy Spirit kind of directs you towards the things that you need to focus on because it just I don't know, I'm not great with words and
Yeah,
describing things, but it
yeah,
just
yeah. But
you kind of have this guidance of where you need to be. And there's even been a couple times where I do the whole, well, let's see where I end up and split the Bible in half and read a passage. And yeah, it's
yeah,
you're gonna find something that you wanted to read. And
yeah,
so
yeah. Was there someone while you were in prison, was there somebody that was instrumental in your faith?
um well, there were definitely, I guess, two sides to that. I started going to a service while I was in there, and it was a uh, First Baptist service, and some of their views were a little bit maybe different than mine, but the core of it was just an extremely joyful place. It was a bilingual service, and the it was just kind of brought a lot of people together that in a place that's usually very divided. Um, one thing about prison is like there's a lot of racial segregation,
Mhm.
and so uh, this is one place where you could sit side by side with someone of a completely different group than you and just praise Jesus, and that was a fun experience. So that was good for like just encouragement and keeping my joy up, but uh, is what really helped is just that people I had out here. I have my family, which is nice to have. They stuck by me very closely the whole time. Um, but that wasn't like all that surprising, I guess. But I did have a friend that literally kept money on the phone so that I could call him every single week and stayed in touch with me, and that was very encouraging just to have someone that didn't necessarily have any real ties to me other than wanting to be a good friend.
Mhm.
And it was just reminding me that even when I'm in a place where everything can seem distant, God still blesses me in all these little ways, with uh I got along with people very well in there, which a lot of people that are in my same situation maybe don't. Um, but you know, people from all sorts of different groups seem to like me, and well, I'm not a very likable person all the time, so that had to be maybe God doing that for me.
None of us are.
Yeah. And so I I think when I was in there, it's like not necessarily a place where you're going to experience a whole lot of like tangible blessings from God. You're not going to, wake up and find that your bills were miraculously paid because you don't really have any. You have no responsibility whatsoever, which is in its own way kind of sounds nice, but it's not.
Mhm.
Um,
'Cause you don't have any agency. Yeah,
but
yeah. You don't get to make a lot of decisions and have control, basically.
no, yeah, it's definitely that's actually one of the tough things about being in prison is it's not like the stuff that you see in TV and stuff with like fights, and I mean that happens, but it's just losing all autonomy and distance from your family and friends. So the fact that I was able to stay in pretty good contact with my family and friends was just, God's providence throughout the whole thing. And I can say during the 6 years that I was in there, I was more at peace and happy than probably the 4.5, 5 years, maybe even six before, where I was starting to drift away from God and make my own terrible decisions. So,
What do you think is the biggest thing God's taught you through this?
mm, well, that I cannot do anything on my own. I am
A lesson
completely,
we all need to learn.
yeah, and it's actually honestly something I still, a struggle for me still is God has, blessed me with, I do okay at things, but every once in a while I kind of get in my head and think that I'm good at stuff of my on my own, and that's really not it. So that's something
Keep
I
the rein in
constantly,
a little bit.
yeah, I constantly have to. Uh, I guess my prayers these days are always like thankful prayers, thanking God for basically everything good in my life because that's that's all that there is the good things that God's given me.
Hmm.
So
Well, and he says, in everything give thanks. So, in some manner, probably being in prison was something to be grateful for because he could form you. I mean, put you in a singular spot where you were not going to be tempted to drink or being around certain people or, you know.
yeah, yeah, I can definitely say, as crazy as it sounds, that going to prison was a blessing for me because even even if I hadn't, committed any crimes or anything of the sorts, I there's a good chance I would have just, you know, ended up overdosed or dead in a ditch from, making a poor decision to drive while intoxicated, and I got saved from that. I definitely think that that's probably the direction my life was headed. So
It also gives credence to people's prayers, You had a mama praying hard for you.
sure.
Daddy too, I'm sure, but just and my husband and I as well, we prayed a lot for you too. It was all during this. So I do believe that God answers those prayers, and
No, I
yeah.
definitely on several occasions mentioned to my mom and my grandma too. She had her and I think several of her friends prayed for me, and I'd always just let them know that hey, it's noticed because I'm in a pretty terrible place and I'm in a pretty good mood. So
Yeah. Yeah, you
yeah,
should be. I shouldn't be happy here.
yeah.
So, what was getting out of prison like for you? What,
Uh, well, kind of nerve-wracking. I very quickly realized that if I didn't have the support that I have, it would have been a very difficult experience for me. And so I'm eternally thankful that I have a supportive family, and I guess my heart really goes out to those that maybe don't when they get out because the hoops you got to jump through and everything to get your life back on track are very challenging. But that said, all seriousness aside, there's a lot of like little things that were kind of weird for me. The whole time I was in there, I heard people say that going to a grocery store would be a challenge, and I thought that was like the most stupid thing ever. Like, how could going to a grocery store be a challenge? But you know, for the past 6 years, I've been ordering food off a little list this big, and that's my choices. So then I get there, and it's like that's how many choices I have for what kind of rice I want. And it's like, oh man, how do I make the right decision here? So for yeah, it's and there's just little things that would be kind of overwhelming at first. Uh, the first time I drove at night afterwards terrified me for whatever reason. I hadn't done it in so long that it seemed overwhelming. I don't know, but yeah, it you get used to it pretty quick though.
um, so do you have somebody that you're an accountability partner with?
What exactly do you
Or,
mean?
I mean, just to like check in and say, how are you doing, and kind of keeping you on track, or being able to be honest with to just say, no, I'm kind of maybe thinking about slipping, or whatever. Just something that keeps you on somebody that keeps you on track.
I mean, so upon getting out of prison, I still have 3 years of post prison,
Mm.
which is like supervision. So I mean, I
Oh, okay, so
at the
yeah.
very least have that, and that's like pretty precisely what that is.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, but Like as far as like outside of that, I mean, pretty much everything I've done has been very close, like with my family and stuff. So,
Mhm.
if I was starting to slip, they'd be right there for it.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And
you
maybe this
know,
time you listen.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
What
I
do you
used
see
to,
God doing with you now? What kind of vision do you have for your life, and where do you see him using you?
well, uh, I applied for a job that I wouldn't have thought to apply for on my own. Family friend suggested it, and I was blessed to get accepted in that job. So, again, that's nothing of my own doing, and
Mhm.
so I feel like God maybe wants me there for now. I have had a couple friends that are from my past that uh, I still keep in contact with, and I've encouraged them maybe to go to church or you know make different decisions in their life just based on hey, this is what happened with me. I'm not saying it's what's going to happen with you, but this is what's happening with me now, and
Mhm.
that definitely could happen with you. Because my life isn't perfect right now, but it's it's working out for me at least.
Yeah, yeah. What would perfect look like to you?
Oh, I think probably heaven, right?
Right?
Uh,
Anything less than that is not going to be.
yeah. Uh, you know, Perfect would be never having a bad thought or,
Yeah,
you know, actually being blameless, and that's just
yeah, yeah.
not in the cards.
Not in our human self. How did you find reactions to you from maybe even your siblings or other friends coming out? Were they welcoming or were they kind of like, oh?
I think at least most people are pretty polite, and so at least the version of people that I've received has been very welcoming. Whether that's their actual feeling,
Mm,
I
yeah,
don't know. I have like some obnoxious restrictions placed on me because of my uh, supervision that I'm on, and so that kind of gets in the way of certain interactions. But yeah, my siblings. I mean, one of my best friends since I've been out has been my youngest brother, Elijah. He doesn't live nearby anymore, but we're going disc golfing and
yeah,
we play online video games together all the time and stuff. And that's nice because I just look back and even before I was making the worst of my decisions, I still was not a very good older brother to my siblings. I was just very kind of off doing my own thing and not giving them the attention that they all deserved. So uh, it's good to be back in their lives.
yeah. And build a relationship. I think that's also, at least I see with my kids, as kids, they kind of got stuck in a certain viewpoint of their siblings, and now as adults, they've had to rebuild a relationship in a different form because you're not the same person as you were as a kid, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, takes a little work.
yeah, for sure.
You know,
Yeah,
and it goes both directions, just thinking that somebody's that person that they were because you haven't seen them for that many years, and a lot's happened to them too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
That's definitely for sure thing. They've all changed a lot, but it just seems like all for the better. So that's they all are doing very well, and I'm very thankful to God that you know he's blessed my siblings the way he has.
Yeah, yeah, that's neat. Yeah, that is, it's a neat thing just seeing the layers that God does with us in our lives and what He's gonna bring you to, because this is just steer now. This is just like another little chapter, right? There's gonna
Hmm.
be another chapter after this and another one after that that God's gonna be leading you into doing, maybe more even ministry type of things or other things, but just in your life, when you have your whole mindset toward God, that becomes who you are, and you act that way, you speak that way, and people are going to see His light in you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is a complete contrast to where you were. So that's, I mean, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
It sure is. It would be great to be able to encourage people. So,
Yeah, super, super. Well, just your sharing here is going to be encouraging to people, I'm sure. It's going to be. What would you tell your younger self now that you're this far along?
the things your mom's saying sound crazy, but she's actually right.
Trust your mama.
Yeah, that and before that, trust God. The things that are in the Bible are there for a reason. They're not like as like trying to control us and make our lives worse. Uh, You know, you can even yeah, just everything in there is for our betterment. So listen.
There's an awful lot of people in the Bible who were in bad places and made some bad choices and whatever, and yet God still used them, and transformed their lives. That's the miracle of, read through scriptures is seeing that nobody's too bad for God.
Yeah, and that's always encouraging to remember.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we're coming to a close. What would you like to leave our listeners, viewers with?
Uh, well, I'd like to thank you for having me and just say that, you know, listen to God and do what he says and your life will be pretty great.
Uh,
So,
repeat the part you just said about, yeah, what you tell people.
okay, so I'll just say that read your Bible and listen to what it says and pray and your life will be good. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
take it to heart, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Parker, thanks. This has been such a blessing, and I just see good things for you.
Well, thank you, Jan. I appreciate you taking the time to have me and I hope you have a wonderful morning.
Great. Thank you so much.